We had the video you talked about, $60,000 in debt painting, and you ruined your credit and all that.
Did not, but anyway.
Fact check that.
Let's say I had to have $60,000. You go to a bank and you say, I need $61,000. They then say, okay, here's your credit. This is what we'll give you or won't give you. Or do you have an asset that we could leverage against? Well, what do you think that I used as my asset? I used my paintings.
Yeah.
I said, well, I have these paintings. What people don't know is anytime I did a painting, I would have it appraised. And once it was appraised, I could then get insurance on it. So when the bank seen it, they were like, okay, we'll give you $60,000.
Oh, so because you had all these paintings,
that's
like
right.
5,000, 5,000, 5,000,
That's right.
10,000,
That's
5,000,
right.
just
That's
ones
right.
that didn't sell.
So here's my collection of paintings. Here's my asset. I can borrow against them. I now get the $60,000. I buy the tattoo
That's
studio.
crazy. You didn't purchase them. You painted them.
That's right.
Yeah,
and here's the
that's funny.
thing. Oh, no, please don't take my paintings because I couldn't do it again.
Yeah, you could just paint more.
I could repaint them again. If you think about it, it's kind of a hack way
Infinite money glitch
of selling your paintings.
The creature designer on TikTok says, I make masks, action figures, etc. in my off time. Are you saying you could get those appraised and insured to convert those into assets?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. He's thinking in terms of himself, his industry, and what he does.
Yeah.
Let's go back because I think this is what a lot of people didn't understand when I said that. What is an asset? That's the key question or the key statement. Okay, an asset is anything that does not depreciate but appreciates in value over time of having it. If you had a car, you purchased a car, okay? And you use the car to rent the car out. That then is an asset strategy. You're using the car to make money. You're able to pay for the depreciation of the car, the maintenance of the car, and the note on the car, the bill, how much it is, what you owe on it. And then you're also able to make a small percentage on it.
Yeah, back.
Okay? And then what happens is with this asset, you use it for X amount of years, let's say 5 years, okay? And you're renting the car out 5 years, 5 years, 5 years, right? And then once the car has depreciated enough, you're like, okay, I need a new car. We're going to start the whole cycle over again. You then can take that car, which is what car companies do, which is what dealerships do. Then they take that car and they sell it for the amount that they purchased it for, if not more. Now remember, they've made money off of it, and they've also basically paid the entire financing on it, or the note. Even if they didn't finance it, they bought it, straight cash, whatever. They've made that much money back and made some. So now they get to sell the car again for the amount that they purchased it for. This is how an asset works. There's assets and liabilities. So anything that you can turn into an asset, you can leverage against it, or you can borrow against it.
Yeah.
You can
or
use
the banks
it as
will at
leverage.
least consider it.
Yeah,
They'll at least look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a surefire thing.
Yeah, it's
obviously.
not a surefire thing. But also, there's private investors that do the same thing. If you, like, for instance, let's say you have the original Freddy Krueger hand that was in the movie.
Yeah, that was made, yeah.
Yeah. What is the value of that? What is it worth? Because we know that something's only worth something if there is supply and demand. If there's not that for it, it's not worth anything.
So the answer would be
the answer would be yes. If he is
if there's demand.
Yes, if there's demand to buy that and he's used it and it has what's called, like in the painting world, we call it a provenance. And it, like, for instance, let's say I did a painting, right? And then Johnny Depp bought it. And then Johnny Depp sold it to Brad Pitt. And they had it, and then they basically sold it to a gallery or a museum where it hung in the Louvre. Well, that's provenance. That's, people want to buy it for that. Like Graceland. Graceland, what's crazy is I was just doing a research.
What's Graceland?
Graceland, it's where Elvis Presley lived.
Okay.
I was looking at the value of it, and it's outrageous the amount that they want to sell that house for, or they didn't want to sell it, but the value of it, what it would be, because Elvis Presley lived there, and there's so much to there's so much to the story in the provenance. So remember, an asset is something that appreciates over time, like silver, like gold, like land. Land, it's always going to appreciate. They ain't making no more land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you buy it, odds are in 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to go up in value.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be more demand for it
And less
because
of it.
everybody's building and there'll be less supply. That it's really just that simple. So are you going to be rich off of it? Is it going to be something that you can do every single day and just paint and go to the bank and paint and go to the bank? No, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But one-time examples or one-time use of it or whatever that's how it works. So I would tell him first, find somebody who's in that industry and who knows about what he does, and have it appraised. Like the people who appraised the artwork, these were not people who just walked in and was like, oh yeah, this is $10,000.
Yeah, well, I also remember the bank's going to reappraise it.
That's right.
So you can get it appraised and assured, and then the bank you used, I remember they came back in.
Yes.
They walked through.
Well, that's why, like you hear on the comments, people saying like, well, they're only going to give you 50% of the value of it, of what it's worth. Yeah, well, of course they're going to, because that keeps them safe, and that's their appraisal. But everything has an appraisal to it. This is why when you get into a wreck, you call whoever it is you're calling, Progressive or whoever, and they come right out there, right then, with a tablet to see the damage, to reappraise what that's worth so they can tell the banks.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's all that it is. So take your artwork, and I would say anybody who has a collection of artwork, whether theirs or somebody else's, if it's a collection that they've purchased, I would say get it appraised. If you think it's worth something or it has a certain value, and then definitely get it insured, because if something happens to that, you want to be able to get your money back off of it or whatever. Just insure it, take care of it. That's kind of the point of it, and that's what I started doing. It wasn't a plan to necessarily to appraise it, insure it, and borrow against it. How it actually started happening was galleries would not ship your work back and forth unless you had insurance. So you had to insure it so that if when you shipped it and it broke, that you had the money. Or when they shipped it back and it broke, you had it insured and you got the money back from the movement of it. Okay. Well, in doing that, I'd spoken with an insurance agent or claims adjuster, and he was like, have you ever had these appraised? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, you can look at blank, blank, blank. And there were companies, that will, and all you have to do, people, want to know, how do I get that appraised? All you have to do is look up art appraisal, and there's tons of them that come up, and you'll see their qualifications as to who they are, what they know about art. And there's some that are specific and particular. Like if you do oil painting, there's oil painting appraisers. They won't do acrylic, they won't do watercolor, they won't do sculpture, they'll just do that. And so the more specific that you can find, the better that it is. And the bigger the company, the better that it is. But that's basically how it works. It's nothing, it's no huge, outrageous.
Fraud.
Yeah, it's not fraud. It's not some huge outrageous thing. But it's very important that artists understand that and know that as an option. Because if you know where you're going, if you have a target, it's easier to hit it than not having a target at all. If I say shoot this and there is no this, you'll never hit it. So knowing what I'm telling you and then taking the time to research and then creating a plan for yourself of I'm going to create X amount of body of work, 20 paintings or whatever. If they're averaged at $1,000, that gives me $20,000. Could I possibly appraise it, borrow against it, and get $5,000 to buy new equipment for my studio or whatever, and then pay it back over X amount of time? It's that simple.
Okay.